When I was there, everyone was together from young all the way straight through, and I think he's trying to instill a certain standard that everyone has to match. And if you don't set that standard, like what Sir Alex did, you're not going to be there.
Standards, momentum, confidence, contracts, and the small matter of the FA Cup. We're going to do our best to touch on it all while analysing the benefits of belief under Ruben Amorim. I think it's about time to pop that kettle on. In what has been a relatively quiet week in the world of Manchester United, thanks in large to a commendable performance at Anfield, the January transfer window has already signalled the start of silly season ahead of one of my favourite football weekends of the calendar year. Alongside me today is a man who's experienced the wonder of the famous cup in all its glory, Mr. Danny Simpson. How are you, my friend?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well, even better with all the football that's coming up.
Yeah.
We have plenty to catch up on today, but I want to start with something that will likely be ignored in line with much of the man's stellar career, and I feel it's necessary. It is 30 years to the day since Andy Cole joined Manchester United. 121 goals in 275 appearances, 5 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, and obviously a starring role alongside Dwight Yorke in the iconic treble. The man hit 187 Premier League goals. But despite that, a Golden Boot award, sitting 4th on the all-time Premier League goal-scoring charts. The man is routinely ignored and dismissed by the majority outside of Old Trafford in the discussion for some of the very best to find the back of the net. As a man who's been there and done it, just how important is Andy Cole in Manchester United and Premier League history?
Well, you just see it there. I think he doesn't get the credit he deserves when, well, one, what he did for United, just in terms of the treble alone, but for the numbers that he's put up as a striker and sitting 4th in that list, and all the goals for Newcastle United and for United and for us, he was vital to that team. And for whatever reason, I've had this discussion many times. I don't know why he does get overlooked. For me, he was unbelievable. He's an unbelievable person as well. Sometimes people might think that's the reason why certain people might get overlooked, but that can't be it, because he's a good guy. So, honestly, I wish I could put my finger on it. I think I've heard him speak about it in the past, and you know, what can he do? He doesn't have to say much. His numbers speak for themselves. So, yeah, maybe you can enlighten me more from my era of him. So maybe I'm not sure what the other reasons are.
I look at this constantly because obviously Manchester United is my love, but football overall is something that I've just idolised for as long as I can remember. And you idolise the greats of the game. You start bringing your mind back to late 80s, early 90s, and you've so many revolutionary names through the continental game. And each of them, someone that just like randomly just shoots into my head when I'm speaking about is the likes of Marco van Basten. I'm not comparing Andy Cole and Marco van Basten, but what I'm saying is you get these names that shoot in there. When you're thinking about the Premier League, you obviously think about Eric Cantona. You think about Alan Shearer. And for me, maybe it's because I'm a United fan, I think about Andy Cole immediately because he scored so many goals and he scored so many important goals. I think it's only within our contingent, and it's a pretty big contingent of Reds, will value what he has done, but there's a routine conversation as to why he's ignored so much. I remember Kevin Keegan speaking about him years ago and making reference to the amount of opportunities that he needs to have to score a goal. I think it's a little bit preposterous to think that he could score as many as he could and then miss the amount that Keegan was suggesting he would miss per game. The telepathic partnership that he had with Dwight Yorke. Yeah, and he never took penalties. I think, did he take one penalty or did he take any penalties?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you imagine he was on penalties as well.
He'd be up there knocking around with Shearer. Almost certainly he would at the very, very top of that leaderboard.
I just wonder whether it's because there was, at the time, 4 top strikers. What I'm trying to say is, instead of, it wasn't, what I'm saying is it wasn't all him. So especially the treble, we obviously have Yorkie, Sheringham, Solskjaer. They all shared the load in that year specifically, whereas I remember for a time when it was Rude, the amount of goals Rude got, it was like he was on his own. Obviously, Rooney's different. But, yeah, I don't know. That just popped into my head, whether it's because they all shared the load as a group of four, which I don't think you don't see that anymore in teams.
It's a pretty good point. And even though he's had those 5 Premier League titles and multiple seasons, not just with United scoring goals, when people think back on Andy Cole, they'll always think about Cole and York as a duo, won't they? And what they managed to accomplish, particularly in the new camp and everything that they managed to do. It was definitely up there, one of the greatest partnerships that I've ever seen in terms in front of goal and what they both contributed. And as to why people continue to, I suppose, refuse to accept just how good he was, I'll never know. But I tell you, given the current difficulties that we have in front of goal, I'm pretty confident that the majority of the fan base will welcome him with open arms today.
100%.
That said, Danny, we did see an end to 3 consecutive games without a goal following that draw in Liverpool last weekend. Goals from Lisandro Martinez and Amad Diallo earning that deserved point. And realistically and truthfully, it could have been more. I don't really want to analyse any more as to whether or not Xerxes was offside when he received that ball for the end from Maguire, because it was painful enough as it was. But overall, we'll say winning breeds momentum and confidence. And 4 straight defeats heading into that fixture placed morale probably fairly low in that dressing room. Now, I know it wasn't a victory, but given the nature of what that team managed to accomplish against a team that they were not expected to accomplish anything, as a former professional, can that draw act as a defining catalyst for Ruben Amorim now for consistent performances and moving forward?
Yeah, it should, if you want me to just be brief. But yeah, we obviously thought the Man City victory was going to be the catalyst. Obviously it wasn't, but there was a difference in that game. I know we won that game, but there was a very different feel to the performance. I know we didn't win and we drew, but very, very different feel to the actual performance, the fight back, to go to Anfield. I used to say Anfield was one of the worst places you can go to as a player. I hated it. Obviously, I'm a Manchester boy, so that's maybe another reason, but more so a night game, the atmosphere, it's so tough. And I think to go 2-1 down and then show the spirit and the fight, to not let the heads go down, because we've seen it over times where we've conceded, heads gone down, conceded again, and before you know it, you're 2-3-0 down. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, that they didn't accept 2-1 at Anfield. Everyone thinks we're going to get beat. But no, they show some character, some grit, which is all we want to see from players. But I also do think, sometimes, I'm not saying they're the easiest games, but when you're going into a game expecting to lose, the pressure is kind of off. I look at the cup final, Man City. No one expected us to turn them over that day, and we pulled out a performance. So I want them to build on that, have some more belief. And when there is pressure, at home, because you just drew against Liverpool and had a great performance, you got Bournemouth at home, then you're at home, you got to perform in front of your fans. That's what we want to see as well, not just when the chips are down and we need a performance, because we've seen it over years now, haven't we? When a performance has been needed, we've seen it. So, yeah, I hope this time under the new manager, we get to see them kick on and go to Arsenal and enjoy it, if anything.
That's the main word. And another word you used toward the end is character. That's the biggest thing for me. I spoke with Stan Chow last week. We were discussing heading into the Liverpool game. I made reference to City and how it's always fantastic to beat Manchester City, regardless of personal circumstances at each club. Even though we went to City, as you said, the performance felt different against Liverpool. And City are going through so much troubles of their own. I made the point that even though beating them is fantastic, you're beating a side that everybody is beating. But you go to Liverpool, there is literally zero expectation. I also made reference in terms of what you're saying as well. It is almost like the shackles are released. It's not like there's an expectation on the shoulders of the players there. I really, really liked what I saw. It did emulate that FA Cup final in 2 ways, because as you've said, nobody expected anything at Wembley. And not only did the side turn up and win, but they played toe-to-toe with them. And it wasn't a case of sitting back and playing counter-attacking football. They went toe-to-toe and they tried to play them at their own game, which was fantastic. Obviously, Diallo added another memorable moment in what is his short career with that goal. He's getting into the habit of notching important goals against Liverpool, which is not a bad thing to have. I think his performances this season have led many to label him as the standout player in the squad. An individual at the forward line can be moulded around. This is a view that's obviously now been shared by Ruben Amorim and the board, because we've seen confirmation yesterday of his contractual extension until 2030. It's a huge deal, massive, massive deal, bringing him up for many years. Just how significant is it, though, to be able to tie a player of that caliber down for as long as they have?
Oh, it's massive. Like you said there, like for a kid that's not played, I wouldn't say he's inexperienced, because he's played a lot of football elsewhere and stuff. But I think the biggest thing for me is key moments, and that's what we're used to seeing at United. The players that when you getting beat, you need a goal. Who in that last minute or that last who has that chance can take that moment of the pressure. And like you said, we've seen it. He's mentioned Liverpool last year. We talk about the winner against City. Like, that was not easy to take that on the way you did, with a defender chasing you, a keeper running out to you. Not just that. Then for me, the next part of his second contact was to get some kind of contact on target. But how many times do we see players try and thrash it, and it's like go over the bar, or we go, everyone goes, oh, but he kept his composure and made sure he got it on target, and he scored him. And again, obviously, Liverpool game again. I want to see that a lot more from him. Coming in off that line onto his strong foot and having a good contact and getting his goal. So I think his performances in terms of what I expect from players, his work rate is unbelievable. But yeah, I think the key moments, he's making a habit of that, and that's a big sign, and he deserves the contract, and let's hope that he kicks on now, because now he feels now he'll probably feel more valued.
Agreed. And one of the things I like the most about him is he seems to really embody this ideal of, I don't care where you put me on the football field. If you want me to play in centre of defence, I'll go back and I'll play there. I just want to contribute to the team. I want the team to win, and I will do whatever I can to help them win. And that is the type of mentality you'd expect from guys that are in the latter part of their 20s, the early part of their 30s inside in a dressing room, because it's an example to set forward towards everybody else. And it's so funny, considering he's 22 years of age, that you've got a guy, realistically speaking, is only at the beginning of his journey. And he's the one who's almost setting an example for what you should be endearing towards in the rest of the squad. Another thing, and it's a rather scary point for many of the supporters, it's another contractual talking point, and it remains the defeat of Kobbie Mainoo. Now speculation about the club is opening its doors to reasonable offers for him. You see Chelsea sticking their head up again. I confirm midweek, I'm reliably informed that barring some form of travesty, that he is going nowhere, that he wants to stay in the club, wanting to stay. Surely for anyone with eyes, this is the type of player that you can mould an entire team around, not just a midfield or the forward line. He plays well beyond his years, and he appears to have formed the basis of what could be a very formidable partnership with Manuel Ugarte in midfield. I said to you when we spoke, I think it was maybe the end of July, start of August last year, I kind of lose myself when I'm speaking about him, because it's almost like Jesus came down and touched him. I just think he's got that much ability. He is a delight to watch. I almost think these little syncrasies that he has when he gets to football, for moments it looks like he's been awkward in how he dribbles and he moves, but he has got such unique ability to beat anybody in any particular field. I know there's questions about maybe his stamina and his pace, but that's something that can be built upon. This isn't something you're born with. It's something that you can work on and you can build on with your conditioning. What he has been born with is a sense of mental fortitude, what appears to be old head on young shoulders. Would you class Kobbie as a critically important piece in this Ineos rebuild, and a player that the club needs to tie down as soon as possible, just to reassure the supporters as well as everybody else in the dressing room?
I think you said there, it's to reassure the supporters of the club, believing in the beliefs of the club that have always been academy players coming through, being proud to play for the club, being proud to go out every week at Old Trafford and love the club. Fans love you. Them connections, they're invaluable. Now, you look at, listen, I always say, and I've learned this from Giggsy, Scoldy, I've always said second season's always hard. Second season's the hardest, because you come on in the first year, nobody knows about yours, no expectation, everyone's excited, and you set a standard, and then he goes away with England. He's not had any rest. He's a young kid, and yeah, I think this year he's had injury problems, and I feel like sometimes in being at the team a couple of times recently, it's probably helped him mentally. So when you look at him coming on against Newcastle and how he changed the game. I know we lost, but you saw the impact again of, I think, what we've seen last year. And then obviously the Liverpool game again. So no, listen, he's massively important for me, should be the next 5 or 10 years. And not for that as well, but for when other players come into the team who are young, you're looking at Kobbie and you want to get to know, you want to chat to Kobbie because he's done it. So you're going to say, Kobbie, like, how did you feel? You just done it. So that's what I was when I was at United, having them players around that have been there, done that, or are doing it. That's what that's what you look up to. Yes, we buy foreign players and it's great, but they're so key. But the problem is going to be not just for Man United and for the manager, is this rule now where you sell homegrown players and you get full profit for the PSR rules, I think it's called, and I think that's damaging. We are gonna see, hopefully not at United, but we are gonna see more of these owners who maybe don't really care about the history of the club and what that means to fans, but actually they're just looking at the books and thinking, if we sell this kid for this much, it's full profit, and that's the issue that a lot of teams are going to have, and the fans are not going to like. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to change, but I don't think we're going to see as many players now playing, like one club man even.
I know as a journalist, I'm supposed to be impartial and neutral, but I've never been that when it comes to Manchester United, particularly from when the Glazers came over. For years and years, I was a proud season ticket holder. I handed that back when they arrived, and I was on the front line with Must and everybody else protesting against them here because I was informed early about the damage that we were potentially looking at. It was barely a dip in the water just as to how much damage was going to be caused. We see Sir Jim coming in, is obviously a local lad and has local means. You've said you're going to see it more as we progress, that these owners come in and they just care about balancing the books. The only thing that we have as supporters is Sir Jim stating that he wants to return Manchester United to the head of the table, that there will have to be some decisions made, maybe not so popular amongst the fan base and amongst the club. We've seen that already with everything from mass redundancies to ticket price hikes to cutting staff compensation for travel to Wembley and accommodation, and it leaves a rather unsavoury taste in supporters, as you saw with protests before games and banners. Surely, if this man has aspirations of returning Manchester United to the head of the domestic table and being able to compete on a perennial basis for the major honours, you need to assemble a brilliant first-team squad that can compete with the likes of Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, not even mention the continental powerhouses. Surely he and his advisors around him and this best-in-class Ineos backroom team can see that Kobbie Mainoo immediately goes in and benefits any team that he arrives.
Yeah, you'd think so. Look, there's a lot. Listen, nothing's happened with Kobbie yet. There's a lot of talk. I would be very surprised if that materialised and they let him go for the books, for money, for profit. But as I said, I would be surprised, but then I wouldn't be. I'm kind of 50-50 on where it is, because, like you said, there's a lot of decisions being made at the moment for costs and money and cutting money, and that some people, I don't like talking about it because they might take the club back to where it needs to be, but obviously it doesn't sit well with just normal working class people. I'm from Salford, and when you're taking bonuses off staff and little things like that, it obviously doesn't sit well with people, and it kind of can run through the club. Maybe them decisions he was talking about, maybe we didn't think they'd go as deep as they have, or as as low as they have, in terms of the people working for the club, that we don't get to see how much it's affecting them. Maybe we're just expecting it to be wholesale sales, making big decisions at the top, but it's going right through. So I don't think at the moment you can write anything off. We can obviously hope that we all would love to keep Kobbie and build a team around him and bring more academy players through. I think we've got the longest run of games where we've had an academy player in the 18. I think it's rolled back. I don't know. You have to research that. God knows how many years his academy player been in the squad. So we need these players in the team for the fans, and like I said, for the other young players. They're homegrown. We love them, and I just hope that the rumours are obviously not true.
Absolutely. And what you're referencing, and I actually know the date off the top of my head, is Saturday the 30th of October 1937.
Wow.
And from that date, that was at Craven Cottage, and from that date we've had an academy player in every single first team squad. I wrote about it recently, and it was just stressing the importance of academy and tradition for Manchester United. It's the biggest thing. You can do whatever you want and you can say whatever you want about this football club, and the Glazers, regardless of anyone's opinion, have seen the complete decline of the greatest footballing and sporting institution in the world. They've taken everything from supporters, absolutely everything, and now they're threatening to take the soul of the club and the tradition of being able to embody academy and the likes of Sir Matt, that if they're good enough, they're old enough. Another name that's falling on that avenue is Alejandro Garnacho. Now, I know he's come under the same spotlight, but he appears to have fallen dramatically in terms of supporter stock following a perceived attitude issue. Say what you will about speculation from off the field damaging stuff that's been going on with family members. But I want to know something, because you've had the pleasure of working alongside ample youngsters in many dressing rooms. From your perspective, do you think there's much to read into regarding Garnacho's mentality and his ability to achieve his ceiling? Because he's got so much talent and potential, it's obvious. He's already accomplished so much and he can grow. But there appears to be, dare I say, a chip on the shoulder at times. And I'm not entirely sure where it comes from.
Yeah, I think it's obvious to see it sometimes. I don't know whether he doesn't feel loved. But listen, every player's deals with things differently, and some players maybe need a complete arm around the shoulder all the time, need to feel loved. But then you also need to earn that. You need to have done it and performed for longer than just a season. We don't know what's going on inside the club. Some players need some. I remember just from some players need shouting at, just a little kick up the backside to bring the levels back up. I was one of them. If I took my foot off the gas and I got laid into, I needed it. Whereas I know other players constantly need to be told, "Well done, you're doing well, you're my player." So maybe he's just one of them. I think there was an incident, didn't he, when I think it was at Old Trafford, and I don't know if he scored and he wasn't happy about something. And I think it's these young players are different now, and I think it's learning quickly who gets dealt with differently and what each player needs to get the best out of them week in, week out. And like you said, we obviously know that he can perform to a level. We've seen it, but we want to see it consistently. And if you come out of the team, then you want him to come back in the team and show why he should be in it. That's how it used to be. It's not a punishment and then sulking. So, yeah, listen, the fans, he should know the fans like him. So, like you said, it's internally is how you manage him and get the best out of him. And only Ruben will know that as he's getting to know him.
I wonder, is it because you're getting on in years like myself that you can say if you needed a bit of a kick up the arse that you responded well to it? The thing you have now, and it's what's so different from when you were making the ranks, is social media has such a huge impact on these players. People like to think that regardless, and it's something I say all the time on this podcast, you have this perception that because guys are earning thousands and thousands of pounds, that they should be able to shoulder the abuse that they receive. And it's quite clear that Garnacho does not do too well with it. You made reference to the time when he scored. That was following some content creator filming him, coming over and signing autographs before a game, and the content creator decided to tell him how he could improve his game and what he needed to do better. Really didn't affect him well, but it's part and parcel of football in what is now 2025. I was going to say 2024. Onto the meat and gravy of this week and the wonder of the FA Cup third round. We have a rather daunting trip to North London to face Arsenal. There's one thing I want to get your opinion on, because it is rampant today after Everton and Peterborough played. obviously you got Fergie's son, Darren Ferguson, is managing Peterborough. And Ashley Young came off the bench for Everton, and his son Tyler was on the bench for Peterborough. He had an opportunity to have father and son playing at the same time, and Tyler did not get a run out. This has taken social media and everything by storm, despite the fact that going into the last couple of minutes of the game, Everton were only a goal up. And as we've seen throughout their entire season, it's not necessarily safe to say that Everton are not susceptible to conceding a late goal. Do you think that that sort of sentiment has to go out the window in an FA Cup third round, particularly for a League One side like Peterborough?
If you want me to perfectly be honest, I think, yeah. No, I think he should have gone on. They made such a big thing about it. Obviously, the media, them doing interviews together. Look, I saw his interview. I've not been a manager, and I heard his comments and his interview, and he said I had to do what's right for the team. You know, I had to put someone else on to maybe try and get a goal back, and I get that, but yeah, for me, you know, what a story that would have been for the FA Cup. We all love the FA Cup. We grew up in it, every single one of us. Yes, it's about dreams. It's about and do you know what I said, for a father and son of that stature to share a pitch for 60 seconds in an FA Cup game, I just think would have been, you know, a dream. Would have been an amazing story that would have lived on for years. Don't listen. We're not going to get many chances to see that happen. I said I kind of get his interview at the end, Darren Ferguson, but I just think you can stick him on for 60 seconds, and that might have boosted the rest of the team, because they all probably wanted it to happen. Peterborough and Everton. So, you know, I don't know. I know I'm rambling on a bit, but I'm on the side of I'd have loved to have seen it happen.
No, you're not rambling. It's exactly why I asked you. I've spoken with colleagues and I've spoken with friends about what they thought. I wanted it from someone who's been there, who's done it, and in all likelihood knows the individuals in question. There was so much publicity given to it before the game that for it not to occur, I mean, you can see it from both sides. You can see it from the footballing perspective, and you can also see it then from the sentimental perspective on it as well.
Mate, listen, I hadn't spoken to Ashley for ages, but I'd have loved it. If I was on the pitch, I would have loved it. I'd have been weirdly looking down. Sometimes when you see your mates warming up, I'd have been like watching to see he's warming up. Oh, mate, he's like, from whether I played for Peterborough or Everton, like I would have loved that to have been a part of that moment on the pitch. If you want me to be clear, you know, perfectly honest, and I can understand why it's caused a storm, and everyone's got an opinion on it, because it's the FA Cup, and it's all about the magic of it, and that would have been magical, I'll be honest.
Appreciate the honesty, and I'm sure everyone listening will appreciate that honesty. Turning focus back to ourselves, and we have that daunting trip to North London, face Arsenal in what is obviously the undeniable clash of the round. The pair last met in the Cup in January 2019. Now, that was the fourth round as opposed to the third. United were away, and United did win 3-1 thanks to goals from Alexis Sanchez, Jesse Lingard and Anthony Martial. All three no longer at the club, obviously. We've spoken about the momentum that they've potentially gained from that performance and the result at Anfield. How do you view this fixture playing out, particularly when we've seen the Stoke-like attributes of Mikel Arteta's Arsenal only a few weeks ago?
Yeah, well, the lads should be probably travelling now on a Friday. Not sure when this comes out, but on the train with relief. You've just gone toe-to-toe with Liverpool, and then it should be like, there's no reason why we can't do it again. And at the moment, Liverpool are obviously, I think, a much better team than Arsenal. So that should breed confidence, and it's the cup. You know, it's like I said, you leave the league and we're all fighting for points and all that, but this is the cup. It's this is a one-off game. You know, Arteta might change his team. He might give other people a game. You don't know, because people, you know, it's like the FA Cup. The teams do change. But I just think the lads need to go down there and have the same kind of attitude to Anfield, and say, let's have a go. And I think, do you know what? Regardless of the outcome of the result, I just think after Liverpool, the fans will just want to see the team have a go. Even if you get beat, and be like, that's United. That's our players. That's the running, the tackling, the energy off the ball, with the ball. And I think, regardless of the result, that's what we want to see. Probably, that's all I want to see tomorrow. To be honest, and I'll be like, yeah, they're going in the right direction, because that worst case scenario, if United don't win, you go off that pitch and you're carrying you're not running off the pitch. You're going off that pitch because you're exhausted, and I think that can go a long way in the relationship between the fans and the players carrying on the rest of the season.
I want the exact same thing. In an ideal world, you want to win every single game, but we're not in that position right now. The league standing shows that. Obviously, the FA Cup offers the possibility of silverware. You saw when this side went to Man City, they beat Man City. You saw last weekend when they went to Liverpool, they can mix it up with any team they want. It was the frustration after the game that was evident from Bruno Fernandes and from Ruben Amorim. This team has the capability to go and do that, and then can falter against the would-be lesser sides when the expectation is there to go and beat them. And that's all psychological. This is all something that needs to be overturned, and it's about belief inside that dressing room and belief going out there. I mean, I think you share the same opinion as me. There's every opportunity that they can turn Arsenal over. I know Arsenal are good, but this United team is good, and so many people are forgetting the squad is absolutely jam-packed with talent. It's amazing what a lack of momentum does. And it's what I said prior to the Liverpool game, that you can just see the complete contrast. That Liverpool side starts every single game. And to use, we'll say, a comparison with something that was very prominent over the Christmas, just imagine the darts. And I remember when Phil Taylor used to play darts, 90% of the people he played against were beaten before they even stood up in the hockey. And that's what happens against Liverpool, and those players breed into it. There's one thing I want to do, because I don't normally have time to pop any listener questions to any guests. There's a long-term follower, his name is Jerkcoin, and he is a big fan of yours. He's let me know that, and he wanted your take on something. Obviously, as you've worked under a collection of managers and tacticians, because there is a big difference between managers and coaches, even though they have the same type of role. It takes Sir Alex Ferguson was arguably one of the greatest managers of all time. Pep Guardiola is potentially the greatest coach. Learning various traits along the way as you have. Jur has asked, as a man who has lifted the Premier League trophy, why do you think that so many talented managers and coaches have failed at Old Trafford? And what does Amorim have in his locker to make a difference?
Oh, that's brilliant. I'll be honest. I think I love Amorim. I love him. I think what he's trying to do, maybe that the others haven't tried to do to maybe answer this question. Because I'll have to try and pick maybe apart from Ollie, but I think Ollie had actually a decent spell. I think Ollie did really well actually when you look back. But I think he's trying to change. He's trying to make Man United again, and he keeps saying the word suffer. And I think what he's trying to do, from what I can see, is he's trying to change the culture from inside deep, and he's trying to, whether it's through the academy, whether it's through the young players, whether it's through the players who are experienced. I feel like he's, whether it's relationships again with the staff, the players, everyone as a group. I feel like other managers might have come in and be like, I need to win, don't care about the academy, I don't care about Travis Binion, as in I'm not saying I don't care, as in I don't want to get a relationship with him, I don't, the 18s, I don't want to, I don't need to go and watch the 18s. I'm seeing Amorim watching, the youngsters on the side, and I feel like before he even came, he knew who everybody was. And I think what he's trying to do is, when I was there, everyone was together from young all the way straight through. And I think he's definitely trying to instill a certain standard that everyone has to match. And if you don't set that standard, like what Sir Alex did, you're not going to be there. And I don't know, I think like how he speaks and when he says all that stuff, I think, yes, he has to win and get results, because ultimately that's your downfall if you don't. But I also believe he believes that by keeping his beliefs in the culture, getting the culture right again and setting the standards from within, then the results will come eventually. And I really believe that's something he's trying to do. So whether that answers the question or not, I hope it does. But that's my opinion on that, really.
Yeah, I think it definitely answers the question. That was brilliant. I mean, it's all about installing a belief and a suitable framework that everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet, essentially. Danny, before I let you go, you were in preparation for your boxing debut the last time we spoke. And since then, you've fought and drawn with Danny Aarons in Dublin in August. I want to know, did the experience live up to your expectations?
And more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and more, if you want me to be honest. There, just the psychology behind it, the what you go through mentally. It's like a roller coaster. The days leading up to it, you're on your own. You're not got your teammates. You 1 minute you think you're gonna win, next minute you're worried about getting knocked out and being embarrassed, and embarrassing your friends, embarrassing your family, even though everyone knows what you're going in there to do. But yeah, to prepare to go to have a fight in front of 12, 13,000. Yes, I've played in front of 50, 60, 70,000. But to walk out in that moment on your own is something I never, one, I've never experienced, and two, didn't think how I'd feel. And the relief after it and stuff and it's a sense of pride to put yourself through something you've never done before. And yeah, it was, so to answer your question, it exceeded my expectations and more.
It's something you're looking at pursuing again? Is there more in the pipe work for you?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I'd love to have. I've said to them I'd love to have one more, because I got kind of given 4 or 5 weeks notice to go into that ring that night, and I'd love to have a full camp like what most boxers do, where you get at least 10 weeks, and you're not stressing about getting into the right condition. You're on the right journey, the right path. You learn. You got more time to learn. So yeah, and now I had 4 or 5 weeks. I'd love to have a 10-week camp, and now going into it knowing how I'm going to feel, because it was the unknown. Whereas now I kind of know how it all works. It was funny. I want to let you obviously go soon, but do you know when footballers, it's 3:00 kickoff?
Yeah.
And I'm weird. I need routine. So we all know what the routine is. As a fan, that the lads are going to probably come out at 2:20 for a warm-up, 40 minutes or 45 minutes before. They're going to arrive at the stadium. They're going to have pre-match at this time. They're going to arrive at the stadium at this time on the coach. All them things, or the warm-up finishes, right? We're going to walk out the tunnel at 2:55 to 3. What happens when you're fighting, because I was last, is you don't know when you're going to go out. So you're trying to eat and you're trying to warm up, but then you don't want to burn yourself too much, because if people get knocked out in the first round, then your time changes if their fight goes the distance. So they'd be coming in and out telling us about the ring walk time was changing. I couldn't get my head around it, because I'm so used to routine.
Structure.
Yeah, and structure. And it was just it was just a weird feeling when I was like, 1 minute I was on the pads warming up, and I was like, wow, no, you need to wait 10 more minutes now. We'll get you warm again in a minute. It was just a crazy experience, mate. But yeah, it was something I'm glad I did.
Butterflies coming and going every 5 or 10 minutes when you're getting word about what's happening. It was certainly something I watched. We all watched it. We all enjoyed it. And I hope you get to do it again. It'd be fantastic. And if you get your 10-week camp, then even better. Danny, my man, as always, a pleasure to spend time with you. I hope everyone has enjoyed it listening today. If you'd like to get in touch, please do so via theatre_of_red across every social, and visit the website for daily exclusives, features, and much, much more. Lastly, if you'd kindly subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening, each one means the world. We'll be back next week to digest the latest in the world of Manchester United, and hopefully we'll be celebrating safe passage to the 4th round of the Cup. Chat to you all very soon.